Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, where we connect the wisdom and experience of ministry leaders to the realities of ministry in the trenches. We journey with ministry leaders through all the hidden aspects that help us to become fruitful ministers. Here at the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, we discuss the stuff that no one told you about Catholic ministry and strive to help ministry leaders succeed from the beginning. Our hosts are Christy Cabanis, the Director for Missionary Discipleship for the Diocese of Cleveland, and Sarah Jarzembowski, the Director for Marriage and Family Life at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Crofton, Maryland. Please show your support for our efforts by clicking like and subscribe and commenting below. And now here are Sarah and Christy. Let's get started here. We've been chit-chatting for a little while now. Let's get serious. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast. We are talking about all those things that you never knew in ministry or no one ever told you about. Today we are here with Michael Ruzicki. A little bit about Michael. I'm sure our paths have crossed, Michael. I just know it. Michael is the training and events manager for liturgical training publications and the director of sacred music and liturgy for St. Mary of the Lake and Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Chicago. See, Chicago, that's the connection. Like, I feel like we have a connection there.
Yes.
Previously, he served as pastoral associate and diocesan coordinator of adult sacramental formation in the Archdiocese of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Michael is a former team member of the North American Forum on the Catechumenate. He is the author of Guide for Training Initiation Ministers, an introduction to the OCIA, and that's through LTP. Well, that's just this year, too. That's awesome. Michael studied at the Catholic University of America and the Washington Theological Union. See, another one that I feel like we might have crossed paths around there somewhere, too.
Sure.
Like, I feel like I got my fingers all over the place here. And but yeah. So welcome, Michael. I'm really glad to officially meet you. Again.
Good to be with you. Yes.
So yeah, welcome. And right now you're in Chicago, right?
I am on the north side. My parish is just a mile north of Wrigley, and LTP is just a mile west of the Sox Stadium. So
Can
there
you
we
like
go.
walk or bike to work?
I'm about 2 miles from my work. So yay, CTA. We love the red line. So
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. That's fabulous.
Uh,
Yeah. All right. So I just want to tell everybody, like Sarah has said on this podcast before, that I'm her initiation ministry guru, but my initiation ministry guru is the Michael Ruzicki. So super excited to have him here on the show. And so the focus today, we're really going to be talking about how do we bring people into the church and what are we doing with that? So Michael, just to get us kicked off, and especially because there's a new text involved, do you want to tell us which church documents you reference the most in your ministry, sir?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think, Sarah, Christy, it's important. I just want to say from the beginning, all I ever wanted to do was play piano in church. Like that was my whole thing, was like none of this initiation stuff, none of this adult faith formation sacrament. No, that like, but really it was through the journey and not my catechumenal journey, but it was um, our DRE left at the parish. And immediately it was like, you got to do this. You got to do this, pastoral associate. And it's like, okay, pick up the book. So I would say that the order of Christian initiation of adults, when you talk about key church documents, it is not just a ritual book. It really is. It is a vision for who we are as parish, a vision for who we are as disciples, and then how do we make disciples. It's all in there. So, and my other two, um, well, three, I guess. Of course, this new directory for catechesis is a dream for catechumenal ministers. It is beautiful. So I'm still unpacking that all these years later. And then the two, which we probably have on our shelves that are dusty and we have not read in decades. Our hearts were burning within us and Go and Make Disciples. Two USCCB documents that really guide, again, not just the ministry of initiation ministers, but they should guide all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Hearts were burning and Go and Make Disciples. Wow.
What do you think? What are your key takeaways from some of those that help you with initiation ministry, do you think?
I think, first of all, they're just all, of course, linked together.
Yeah.
Um, the easy one for go and make disciples, I know it's a little outdated. No, of course, it's a few decades old, but it literally is bullet point by bullet point what a parish could do or should do to be an evangelizing parish. And it is that reminder that evangelization is an action verb. It is not sitting there and waiting for folks to come to us. And while it's great to make sure that we have a wonderful parish receptionist that responds to the infant baptism parents and the OCIA inquirers, evangelization is outward facing,
Yep.
that we bring
Hmm.
people in. So go and make disciples that. Um, and then I think the other three are just all linked. OCIA. What I love about the directory for catechesis is it calls, I'm going to go back to Acts 2:42. We know this, right? The disciples, uh, they devoted themselves to the teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking the bread, and to the prayers. That's what our OCIA, I think, and our discipleship formation is based on. And the directory calls that the pedagogy of Jesus. So if this is how Jesus formed disciples, and the OCIA is reminding us that this is how we form disciples, I mean, come on. I mean, and that's it. I think that's all we need to do and to be church. Other programs are great, but we don't do church by program. We do church by the vision and footsteps of Jesus and our ancestors of faith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Michael,
oh,
can
go
I
ahead.
can I just jump in there? You use the term pedagogy, and
Mhm.
and so can you break that open a little bit for those who've heard the word but might not necessarily understand it in its fullness?
Yeah, yeah. I will give you Michael's interpretation of it because I know there is, of course, a whole world of and study and pedagogy. But I really do think about pedagogy as being that methodology in which and that's what's great about our world is that it's formation and education is an aspect of that. You know, often I'm on the road. Catechesis is not teaching. Catechesis is catechesis.
Mm,
And when we look at this pedagogy, catechesis is one of those components, certainly. And does catechesis have a teaching element? Of course it does. We know that,
Yeah.
but it's not exclusively. And maybe let me clarify that one more time, right? Catechesis, the echoing of our faith.
ooh.
And it's again through music, through art, through stories, through the lives of saints, through our lived experience. That's when the church teaching really, I think, comes alive. And that's what, so Sarah, back to your question, pedagogy is then taking that with the life of the community, the Christian way of life, that with our liturgical life, that with the way in which we serve the least among us, and how all of those intertwine. Um, that's our methodology. That's our pedagogy. A lived faith. I know I skirted around your question, but
I love it. I love it. No, I think that's really great. I love that you brought in music and art and stories and all of that artsy fartsy. I'm like, that's me. I mean, I'm a theater undergrad. Let's do it, you know. And so I like to bring in all of the visuals. You know, my prayer table is never just a normal prayer table. You know, it always has something that brings in the visual elements of the topic at hand, you know. So our kids are starting to learn, our families are starting to learn that if they look at the prayer table, they know what we're talking about today.
I think though too we should think about the fact that that we ourselves are the living example. Like that's also like that people are looking at us and how do we respond to conflict or the outsider or you know who we're inviting in and how we're doing that. I know for me, like the people that have been the most formative in my life have been people that I literally watched. I learned from seeing them do. So like it's that apprenticeship model in a lot of ways of how do we how do I see you be this Christian? What does it mean to be a Christian? I know that best by watching you, listening to you pray, having you lead me and your behaviors and actions, you know?
Yeah, and also how we struggle too, how we struggle with our faith, how
Oh,
we
yeah.
struggle applying the gospel to everyday life, and in a world that needs gospel message,
Mm,
inquirers, catechumens, children, they're watching how we wrestle with this.
yeah.
So I think everything you were both saying is absolutely true.
So what do you think then are good models of pedagogy for us, Michael? Like, is there a way to know what good formation is? And I don't want to pin you down on a program, but is there anything that can help us do that better?
Yeah. No, I think that's where we do go back to the ritual text. I mean, when we talk, those who might be listening, we've just not to get too nerdy, but we know OCIA 75, the Order of Christian Initiation, paragraph 75, talks about catechumenal formation, how we form disciples in training, if you will. But I want to flash forward again, more nerd talk here. Paragraph 244. It's in the period of mystagogy, which used to have also the title post-baptismal catechesis, something we're all in. I don't consider it life after baptism. I call it life in baptism. And what 244 is saying is that what we do as baptized Christians is, especially Catholics, we celebrate Eucharist, we meditate on the gospel, we continue those acts of service and charity because that's who we are in the context of community, ever, ever breaking open the Paschal mystery at play in our lives. So to go back to then your question is like, what are schools of thought on good formation? It's there. And my next connection, and I'll let you jump in, but that's where the Directory for Catechesis talks
Mm,
about a catechumenal inspiration. And what I particularly like in paragraph 62 there, catechumenal inspiration for those of us who have received the sacraments of initiation, but are not yet sufficiently evangelized or catechized. And I would say that is probably a majority. I hate saying it. I hate saying it, but we're at a place, in my humble and very possibly wrong experience, is that I feel like we have, if not one generation more, that have been sacramentalized without being evangelized.
Yeah.
mm,
And I think about what the vision of the OCIA does. It's all about evangelization. It's all about discipleship formation. And then, of course, the sacraments are a part of that. So we could certainly break open, and I would love to, what those four elements of catechumenal formation look like, because ultimately they point to who we are as baptismal people who live priest, prophet, king.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So much to take
I
in
know it's
there.
like that was a big
Wait, wait,
sigh
I
from
can go
there
here or
because
there, where? Ah.
yeah. Yeah. But the other is, I want to say this too, because I think that the other piece that we're maybe not saying out loud, and it's part of the new evangelization, is that we, whether we were or were not evangelized at any one point, we need to be constantly evangelized. And I think that there's an openness that we choose to have to that. And actually, it's super funny because I was down in Lafayette, Louisiana recently for something that's called the marriage catechumenate that folks are working on.
Mhm.
And at the end of the trip, we were done a lot early from whenever our flights were going to depart. So we went for a little visit over to the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. Highly recommend. It's a beautiful, beautiful church, and they've got a lovely little center on the side. The gal at the front desk evangelized me and my colleague when we went into her space, like welcomed us forward. And then, I mean, in some ways, we gave her permission because we said we were church people. You know, she got that from us right away. So I think it was a safer space for her. But then proceeded to tell us about a story about a time that God acted in her life. And it was that sense from our hearts were burning, like in the sharing of that story, I felt myself be lit up yet again in a moment, I was able to connect something that happened to me to that, but also just being present with her in that moment. And I think it's something that we would maybe say, but it's unconscious that we sort of get to places, especially as parish and church leaders, volunteers, or whatever. Like you think like, no, I've got this, I've got it figured out, but that being available to the Holy Spirit moving. And I think that that's true. Like when we enter into ministry, sometimes we think, I'm the boss, I'm leading this, but that the folks that are in front of us are bringing their God stories as well and can evangelize us at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Christy, I think what you're getting at too is, especially those who might be listening to us and those of us around doing ministry, is I wish I had more team members. I wish I had more catechists and all
Ah,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff. So go back to what you were just talking about. Step number one, what is people's story? What
Yeah.
venues do we have in Catholic parish life for parishioners to tell their story? The number of times we all three of us had probably seen this. We know it. We are working with folks on a training session, a workshop, or whatever, and someone says, I've been Catholic my whole life, 50, 60, 70 years. No one ever asked me what the Eucharist means to me. No one ever asked me, ba, 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 ba. And then you ask the story, you ask them to tell their story. And how, in today's society, how often are we just asking open-ended questions, not with their best interest in mind, but for us to just then tell our story? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, I think there's so much to what you're getting at, Christy, but also what is of use, not use to us, because it really is availing our parishioners to the fact that they are evangelizers. Yes, like you said, they need to be evangelized themselves, but that's where
We
this
come
all comes
together.
into
It's
play.
a both and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening simultaneously and together. I think that the word that's coming to my mind right now is dominate. Like we have a tendency to dominate the situation, and we need to back up a little and allow there to be more of that together beside accompany it, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, you even mentioned Road to Emmaus earlier, side by side, walking together, listening. Like it really is, and that type of shepherd that Jesus is to walk with us, I think is yeah.
Yeah. So how do you meet people where they are with this and help them to be evangelized or evangelize them? And also, especially when we're talking about initiation ministry, a lot of folks are very concerned about comprehensive content. Where do we strike the balance between those, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this first of all, relationships. Because I think the other thing that, yes, you certainly talk about, people want to know. And we also know that sacramental formation is not this exclusively head journey.
Mm,
There is things to learn, absolutely. But I think what we're ultimately doing, and I meeting people where they are, sure. But what I'm worried about, and again, this is me just maybe my East Coast coming out, I don't know. But sacramental formation has become so transactional. Is
yeah.
I come for these classes and I get this. And I think when we start and nurture those relationships, and again, it's not just like Sarah, the catechumenal director, having a relationship with the inquirer. It's who is Sarah animating to have relationships that go deep with others in the community, um, right? If Sarah's the catechumenal director and serving as a godparent every year, I would be so bold to say that Sarah's being deficient in her ministry because she's not working on helping find other sponsors and godparents. Sarah, I'm picking on you, but I'm using you as a figurehead.
I
So
dig it. I
yeah,
mean, I haven't heard a whole lot wrong there.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
sorry. But
mean,
I,
but that's very true, and as a parish staff person, it's the relationship is time consuming. It is emotionally difficult. It is physically difficult. And so that tends to be the thing that gets put off to the side because I cannot do that and the tasks at the same time. Right? So something has to give, and many times that's what it is.
yeah, but and you're giving me goosebumps because as we're recording, we're on the cusp of Holy Week.
Yeah.
And
mm,
what I love and what you just said is that it is a paschal journey with them. It is suffering. It is exhausting. It is time consuming. That's why that paschal joy on Saturday night is so deep and so to our core because you've been and journeying. And why not share that journey with many others? So I think when we talk about, and I want to get back, Christy, to your question about comprehensive content and all this kind of stuff. My parish, we recently started what my good colleague Father Ron Oakham called the Easter bypass. What the Easter bypass says is that a catechumen needs to be a catechumen at least a full year, passing Lent as a
oh,
catechumen,
right.
Triduum as a
Mhm.
catechumen, Easter as a catechumen, and go around the circle of the liturgical year at least once. So
Yeah.
we just started that at the parish, and I hear from folks all around the country that will never work. That will never work because in our mindset, we have Tuesday nights in the rectory basement, and we've got our 20 sessions versus of on our syllabus and such. And that was never the way it was envisioned to be.
Mm-mm.
Walk this Paschal way around the liturgical year, and you know what? I have seen already in our three elect right now such a deepening. I am convinced, and I hope I'm not proven wrong, that they are not going anywhere after Easter.
Hmm.
Um, and we hear that all the time about the drop off, the after Easter. But when we've made catechesis, sacramental catechesis, this transactional relationship, so we got to break that mentality. And I think the way we break that mentality is through relationship and through getting out of the classroom. We
Yeah.
um, and we got to meet you asked them meeting people where they are. We got to meet them where they are and when they are. So the idea of a Tuesday night every night for eternity is not necessary. It doesn't work in my neighborhood.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say, where do we as Catholics gather? Sunday.
Yeah.
That's your mandatory time. And
Hmm.
after that, we're going to make this work together.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, our deacon has really done a great job over the last 2 years of his presence in our parish in taking it out of that one night a week. He's been able to really make time for people during the day, over lunch, dinner time, Saturday mornings. I mean, he's there with a group of guys doing some scripture study at like 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning. I mean, so giving him props, that he's really taken this OCIA in a really new powerful direction. And we do have people they're going around that full year. And I think you're right. I think experiencing Holy Week as in a mindset of a learner and understanding our faith, it's really very, very powerful. And that week really offers a lot of transformation that sustains through the rest of the next year. And there's a looking forward to being that person that they saw last year, or getting their feet washed, or, being, bringing up the holy oils. Like they look forward to that throughout the year.
Yeah, I think though there's something also to be said about both the artistic and realistic elements of the liturgy because there's it's the church says it often is the liturgy itself is formative.
Hmm.
So It's the sights, sounds, and things like, and one of them that I love, 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 and I feel like people aren't paying attention is at the Easter Vigil. The whole church is in the dark, and then the Paschal candle is brought in, and we sing, "This is the light of Christ," and that it's this slow illumination of the church that is the same for us in the revelation of God. It's like, it's this slow process of revealing that happens. And that's part of this is that we're wondering why our formation has been empty. It's because we're racing and rushing and pressing all of the time. This is like trying to scream at a flower, could you please bloom right now? You know? Go,
But
Michael.
okay, you just let it right in, Christy, right? Uh, upon baptism, they are changed from elect to
Yeah.
what? From
To
neo,
neophyte.
yes, and in
Yeah.
Greek, neophyte, newly planted, the new plant. And when we look at this new identity as a neophyte, a new plant just doesn't like bam grow fruit. Like we got to still nurture and tend to that. But then flashback because you led us in perfectly is that you don't just plant a seed in September and be like, okay, I'm expecting that seed to grow exactly this way according to my schedule. And who knows if the elements and the water and the sun and all that other kind of stuff, the soil was right. So I think we got to take a look at that. And what is the soil and the water and the sun? It's the community. It is the dogma. It's the doctrine. It's our experience of the liturgy and so forth. Like,
Mm.
y- but what I think is also important when we look at all of those different aspects of formation is that the church is envisioning that the catechumens are doing this side by side with the faithful.
Yeah.
We are serving at the soup kitchen side by side with the faithful and the catechumens.
Mm.
They are attending Sunday liturgy with the faithful and so forth and whatnot. That's, I think, where we have such a great opportunity right now as church is how do we look at the role of the community? And there's one thing that I've been suggesting to folks. It's kind of tongue in cheek, and I don't know if anyone's taken me up on this invitation yet. But if we have team members, imagine if we had one team member who is not dedicated on forming the catechumens or candidates, but their role was dedicated to forming the people of God and understanding and appreciating their rights and responsibilities.
Hmm.
What if we had someone who just constantly looked week by week? How do we bring paragraph 9, the role of the people of God, truly alive in this community? That's, I think, a ticket to becoming an even more vibrant and vital parish. No one
Yeah.
told us. I mean, I guarantee you, if we were together in a group with initiation ministers and we asked people to raise their hand if they wish their community was more involved and their community
Oh, yeah.
knew more, most hands, if not all, would go up. And this is not a blame game. This is not. It's an opportunity.
Hmm.
No one taught us that this was our responsibility. No one taught us. And also, I might not sign up to be a catechist because my vision of catechesis,
Doesn't match with the leader. Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm Michael Ruzicki right now would not go to what most parishes call the catechumenate because I don't have a life where I could do every Tuesday night for eternity to sit and listen to lectures. And that's not what catechumenal catechesis is
Well,
exclusively.
interesting though saying that because we've been working on family faith ministry at our
Mhm.
parish. We're trying to do our youth ministry as part of the accompaniment project within FCYM. And so we're trying this accompaniment model throughout our parish. And talking about accompaniment is really hard
It is.
because people think they understand the idea and the concept. And then we go back to, well, you know what worked when I was in ministry? You know what worked when I was leading this ministry? You know what worked when I was a youth minister? And then we go back to these old models again. And it's really tough to break through that.
But so I think that the question is, and I got myself into a big heap of trouble with an individual person one time from doing this. So, take it with a grain of salt, folks, is that we've got to ask the question, what do we think really worked or successful? What does that mean? What do you think that is? Because I did have a person whenever I asked, it was they're signing up for the program and I'm getting them through the program. And I'm like, we're not defining success or working in the same way. The other thing I want to just say is that whether the verbiage was present or not about if you can or cannot be entering into your baptismal call into the lay apostolate, which is a real thing, guys, check your documents. But and I'm going to soapbox for just a second, when we set things up in a classroom scholastic achievement model, we set up the paradigm that some people will be good at this and some people will not. It just is the natural structure of things. Think about, especially here in the US, how we have schools set up. And some people are good at math, some people are good at social studies, some people are good at art, some people are good at music, so on and so forth. And that when you get to college, what do? You eliminate the things you're not so great at and you narrow in on the thing you are. So when we put our faith into a category to be learned in that kind of a way, we automatically set the paradigm that some people are good at this and some people are not. And I don't think that some people are good at God and some people are not. That's just not a thing. But you see how we've manifested this through our model. So whose fault is it? It's ours. We got to do something different. I'm sick of us blaming the people. It's you know what I mean? Like we got to say,
Sure.
No, buddy, you got to call.
Yeah, but I think that and go you're talking about content, and then I want to also go to delivery as well.
Oh, yes, say that.
Since I got to LTP and I'm the training and events manager, I turned to the secular world to see um, just what, of course, are good training methods. I wanted to see what works with
Yeah.
adults and so forth. And then it was fascinating to read this through the lens of being a minister, myself being involved in initiation. Uh, Sarah, I was a theater minor, an
Mhm.
art major. Like it was like, and I'm a musician. And to me, it's like, this is our church has dedicated our whole being to the arts and to music and to all this. And I think not, and so when I think about the delivery methods of sharing our faith, I think that's just important as ultimately, Christy, what you're talking about is the content and the dogma, the teachings. Um, but again, now let's take both the content and the delivery and talk about the ultimate goal and aim, an intimate encounter with Christ.
Yes.
So we just finished 3 weeks. Woman at the Well, Man Born Blind, and Raising of Lazarus. And think about the richness that our Catholic Church offers in teaching on God's mercy,
Yep.
but also in music and in art. But also, and I'll stop after this, going back to something we were saying earlier, we have people in our pews who can witness, who can testify to when they were the woman at the well or encountered, or maybe they were Jesus encountering a woman at the well, if you know what I mean. And when did we need to be that light of Christ? Just like you mentioned Easter Vigil. When do we need to be the light in the darkness and to share that light with others? To bring that joy and peace and patience and kindness with others.
Yeah.
So I think it's like we've got all these opportunities. We've got all the elements we need. We need and you said, one of you said it earlier, the paradigm shift, that this is a ministry of the church. And I would say, we've done it at the parish. Take 1 year where in a way you're just doing a slow rollout with catechumens, but dedicating a year to the formation of your people. And I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed when you help them realize their baptismal rights, responsibilities, and then form them to do something about them, inspire them to do something about that.
Yeah. Oof, so much to think about.
Such a great
I'm like
conversation.
on page 4 of my notes here. You know?
Ripping
Like
pages
I'm just
off.
like ripping pages out, turning to trying to find extra blank pages to scribble on. You
Come
know,
on.
this is really great, really powerful, and I love the conversations that we have about thinking outside of the classroom. That really jazzes me, because that speaks to my heart and to my story and to what I know, and reminds me that I have purpose in this church. As a ministry leader, it's very easy to get knocked down because I'm not conforming or I'm not doing what's normal or what we've always done. And it's easy to hear the adversary speak through that, right? It's very easy to allow that to take over, especially in busy seasons when we're stressful, to allow the adversary to take over. So when we have these conversations about God's personal revelation to each of us and our story as it connects to Christ's stories,
Mhm.
that to me is very powerful. I wrote down, when was the last time we've asked somebody, what does Eucharist mean to you? You
Yeah.
know, and I'm going to ask that of our communion parents and ask them to share that with their children, who are going to be receiving their first communion. It's very powerful for kids to be able to hear from their parents why this has meaning to them, not just because grandma said we're supposed to do it,
Or
right?
because there's going to be a party.
Or because there's going to be a party, or you get to wear a nice dress, or it's all about you, or you're growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's something more to this, and this is how this sustains me throughout life.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Um, so we are at our time here, so we
I
want to ask
know.
you our last, final, amazing question that we ask everybody. Michael Ruzicki, what
yes.
do you wish you knew when you very first started in ministry? Uh-oh, did I freeze? There we go. All right.
You're good.
Yeah, here we
You're
go.
good. You're good. Okay. What I wish I had known in the beginning of my ministry is that because of baptism, I have a place at the table. I
Hmm.
have a voice at the table. But that also doesn't mean I just get to shout out my opinions at the table, but that I have a responsibility to make sure that my voice is formed through the vision of the church, that we look as much as we can in the heart of Jesus to have your voice be inspired by that. And I think, Christy, we had a colleague at different times in Baltimore. And I remember once I did not speak up at a meeting, and he said, "You are at the table for a reason." And
Hmm.
I think it doesn't matter what table we're at, but it is because, um, and I've been reflecting a lot about this since the last 5 years. I am not called to holy orders. I am not called to matrimony, but I am called to live my baptism. And I wish I had someone help me break open at young 23 back then what it means to be a baptismal priest, what it means to be a baptismal prophet, and what does it mean to be a royal servant leader. I picked it up a lot, I think, but I really do wish um, I got to break open baptismal living.
Yeah,
It's service to ministry and to the church, if that makes any sense.
it does. It
Mm.
does. I love that. So deep and so good. I'm not crying. You're crying.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your openness and honesty um and reminding me that this is a safe place for people to really share their being, their wholeness. And you just did that, and I feel privileged to be on the receiving end of that answer. So thank you so much. Whew. All right. Thank you for being with us, everybody. Well, again, we're here with Michael Ruzicki, LTP. Check it out. Guide for Training Initiation Ministers and Introduction to the RCIA. I had to read that again. Sorry, there was a lot there. I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Everyone, hope your Easter was wonderful. This is probably coming out after Easter, even though we're recording it before Easter. Michael, have a wonderful and blessed Holy Week. If this helps you guys in your ministry as you're listening to it, please share. We're really hoping to expand our listener base. We feel very much called to be doing this as often as we can and sharing with you the blessings of these conversations. So like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you later, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Please click the like and subscribe. And if you find this important to the conversations you're having in your local ministry, please share and join the conversation in the comments below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast.